Come on out, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Smooth Plays podcast. I'm Austin, aka Austin Plays, joined by Dean, aka Mr. Smooth. We're getting this to y'all kind of late. We've had a lot of stuff coming up, and so we just haven't really had the time, but we're getting this to you regardless, whether it's late or like, don't
It's
worry, we're getting it out. All right. Um, this is our recap episode of everything we saw in week 7. Okay. There was a lot that happened on week 7, so we're just gonna dive right into it. You ready, Dean?
I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
All right. I mean, Thursday night matchup, Broncos at Saints. This was a game where the Broncos were winning this one beginning to end. The Saints never really stood a shot, in my honest opinion. I think it all ultimately boiled down to rookie quarterback Spencer Rattler. I don't think this is entirely his fault, but if you look at it, they were without their top two weapons on offense from the receiving end, so he really did not have anybody to throw the ball to. And then Alvin Kamara, 7 carries for 10 yards. I mean, and then he had 6 catches in the backfield also, but only 14 yards. So this is just the Saints offense that never really was able to get it off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, missing those top two guys, and Shahid's out for the year, unfortunately. Even without Surtain, this was just too tall of a task for Rattler to go out there because this game was over pretty much at halftime.
Yeah.
At least what I thought, watching those teams in the first half.
Yeah, like you said, Rashid is out for the year. I don't think that is like like a defining blow to the Saints team altogether. I mean, they're sitting at 2-5 right now. The NFC South is right now as it stands. I think anything. It's still kind of it's definitely a two dog race between the Bucks and the Falcons right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints went on a little run. If they're able to get healthy. Potentially sneak their way into that race for the division. But the Broncos, man, I mean, I've been saying it since the beginning. They're 4-3 right now. They're my sleeper pick to make the playoffs. I like the Denver Broncos, and this was a game that they were without. Again, I think the best corner in the league, Pat Surtain. And their defense is just stifling. And as long as Bo Nix, again, we look at Bo Nix, doesn't turn the ball over, they win.
Yeah,
So a big thing I think moving forward for this Broncos squad is going to be Bo Nix not turning the ball over.
yeah, he had 75 yards rushing too. He's been using his legs a lot. And like you said, as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, their defense is good enough to keep them in games. And we knew Sean Payton was going to have these guys ready to play
Oh,
no
yeah,
longer.
absolutely.
So I wasn't surprised by the final at all.
Yeah. Moving on into our Sunday slate. All right. Another very convincing win here between the New England Patriots and the Jags. All right. Jags, pretty slow start in the first quarter, but then they dropped 22 in the second.
Yeah, I actually thought my guy Drake May, I don't think he played. I thought he played pretty well in this game, honestly. The Jack, like you said, the Jack just kind of had an onslaught in the second quarter where the Patriots aren't a team. I think the Jags scored. I might be wrong. I feel like they scored a field goal on their first drive of the second half.
Hmm.
And the Patriots aren't a team that come back down 25-10 with not a lot of time left. Just they don't have the weapons to.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you said. I think Drake May actually had a really good game for what, kind of the hand he was dealt. I agree this Patriots squad is a team that just really doesn't have the talent. I mean, to support a rookie quarterback and let him be successful because I mean, again, Ramondre Stevenson is not like there's no run yet. Drake May and Ramondre both had 18 yards on the ground, 38 yards as a team. Like that's not winning football. And then, I mean, Hunter Henry had a good game, 8 catches, 92 yards. Um, but again, you look at this receiving core, there's just nothing really on this receiving core that's going to help Drake May out, create separation, make football easy for him. But regardless, Drake May still had a very good game with 276, 2 touchdowns. I think the biggest thing for this Patriots team, honestly, that they need to address is going to be the O line because only 2 sacks, which isn't terrible, but watching this game, I felt like Drake May was just constantly under pressure and having to, make plays with his legs. And I don't know. This game is just ultimately boils down to Jacksonville just was able to consistently move the ball, and I think that the Patriots just they if any time that they would get a drive together, they just would just take a few steps back, whether it be a sack or a penalty, and keep points off the board.
Yeah, and for Jacksonville, I mean, they went up early, like you said, and they really, I mean, Trevor Lawrence only had 20 attempts in this game. So you only see the 193 from him, but they
Yeah.
weren't really passing the ball at all. I think
Mhm.
they had 17 straight run plays in this game.
Yeah, yeah. At the end of the game, they were, I think, just looking to get out of it, which is what you're supposed to do
Yeah.
towards the end of the game. So, credit where credit's due. Big win for Jacksonville. We'll see how they carry this into next week, or the following weeks for the rest of the year. All right, moving on. Okay, that game was also in London, so the London Jaguars strike again. Um, Tennessee and Buffalo.
I mean, there's on the Tennessee side, you had Mason Rudolph starting. I think they were up 10. I think they're up 10-0 in this game, if I'm not mistaken. So Buffalo went on to score 34 straight. And I think the main talking point that we need to talk about is how serious this Buffalo team is with Amari Cooper now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you look one for Amari Cooper, I think this is, a best case scenario for him. I don't know if you're Amari Cooper, how you're not, jumping for joy at this opportunity. I mean, you go from a struggling Cleveland Brown teams where you're not getting a lot of opportunities to now a contender where you are now going to be the featured receiver with a quarterback who is an MVP candidate. So love that for Amari Cooper and Amari Cooper fantasy owners, me being one of them. And you know, for Tennessee, I mean, I think that we're starting to see kind of them going into this rebuild process a lot deeper because DeAndre Hopkins, I don't know if you saw the move. DeAndre Hopkins is on the move over to Kansas City. We'll talk more about that. I mean, that's going to be crazy. And yeah, this Tennessee team, I think they're just going into full rebuild mode at this point, and they're chalking this season, and they're just ready to move on to the next.
I mean, can you blame them? Have you seen how they've looked?
I've seen how they looked. I watched the look. I've watched more Tennessee football this year than I would have liked to admit. But no, I agree with what you said a lot, like wholeheartedly about Buffalo, man. I think Buffalo, they are going to be dangerous. Amari Cooper, this was his first week, not even a full week, and he had 4 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Keon Coleman had a big game too, 4 for 125. But I think Amari Cooper is really about to take over this receiving core. Give him time, figure out the offense like next week. I think he's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I'll say one more thing. We talked about how their receiving core was a little thin before he got here. And now you're looking at it, you got Cooper, who's on the tail end, of his prime, but still, in my opinion, a wide receiver one and off.
Absolutely.
And then you got Shakir in the slot, who he's proven to be a very good football player. And
Hmm.
then you obviously got Kincaid. And then if Keon Coleman can progress, just be that big target who can make contested catches, their receiving core is looking a lot better.
Oh, absolutely. And they do have, and they have some questions on the defensive side of the ball. Granted, but I mean, the Buffalo's defense has been solid in years past. I don't see why, they wouldn't be able to figure it out and start tightening up on the defensive end. So good things to come for Buffalo moving forward, I think. All right, and now we move into Houston and Green Bay, which this game was a pretty entertaining game. I mean, it comes down to a game-winning field goal by the freshly signed Brandon McManus, hot off the couch, coming in, kicking a game winner, and the Green Bay Packers knock off Houston 22-24. What did you see out of this one?
I think well, the main thing I saw, I will say, is how legit this Packers defense, at
Hmm.
least the passing defense is, because CJ Stroud was held to 86 yards
Yeah.
passing.
Keep in mind, this is the reigning offensive rookie of the year, and
And
has done nothing but show that he's going to be Houston's quarterback of the future for years to come.
yeah, I mean, the blitz schemes they were running, everything was working. Like CJ Stroud, I'm not going to say he went out there and just got completely, boxed, but he was just under pressure a lot, and it was
Yeah.
causing him to, struggle. And Joe Mixon had a big game. Joe
Hmm.
Mixon's looking like, I mean, him and
Yeah,
Houston.
Joe Mixon might be looking the best he's ever looked, and I mean, without Joe Mixon, I mean, this game's not even close. So,
Yeah.
Joe Mixon, I think, I'm not gonna say they lean on him more moving forward because I don't think that it's fair to lean on like how no matter how good he is when you have the talent that you do at quarterback and receiver. Speaking about that though, real quick, I mean, I don't know. I think that Diggs can still get it done as wide receiver one, but Tank Dell, 4 targets, no catches. I think that this Houston team is kind of feeling the effects of missing out with Nico Collins.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you that Packers defense, we got to talk about it. They're legitimate. And on the other side, I feel like if you're a Packers fan, you have to kind of see Brett Favre vibes with Jordan Love because he consistently throws 3 touchdowns and 2 picks every week.
Yeah, all
Like no matter,
right.
he's not going a game without an interception. He just slings that thing around, man, and I love it.
All right. Moving on into Philadelphia and my dog of the week, the New York Giants, who again, this game I said was going to be the revenge game, or not a revenge game, but a game for Daniel Jones to go out and prove why, they paid him all that money. And boy was I wrong because Saquon Barkley is he might be the best, offensive player in football right now if he keeps playing the way that he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Eagles put up 28 points. Jalen Hurd had 14 attempts, 114 yards because the game was over at halftime. Just, I mean,
Hmm.
Saquon had 17 carries, 176 yards. And I don't know if you saw the clip. They asked him if he wanted to break his career high on the
Yeah,
Sirianni.
and he said, "Nah, let the young guys eat." Which, I
Hey,
mean, how do you not love that?
you
That's
have
just a
to.
veteran guy right there. It's not about him. He's all about the team. And how do you just not love having a guy like that in your locker room?
Oh, you have to. And I think this was the first game, at least since, week one when they beat Green Bay, that Philly fans will probably feel happy about. Because even though they won last week against Cleveland, they looked a little shaky.
Hmm.
And I thought they played pretty well in this game.
I think this is definitely, I would say this is probably their most dominant win so far. I mean, and then vice versa, I said Daniel Jones was going to be our team, but I mean, he just never had a chance because he got sacked 7 times. I feel like we were watching Red Zone every time we flipped to the Giants game, he was getting sacked. Like, I mean, give the guy some help.
Yeah, the Giants offense, they couldn't get anything done in this game. The Eagles pass rush was all over them.
All right. And then this game, well, that was a blowout, but next one, again, this is another one. It came down to a field goal. Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings. All right. Minnesota, first loss of the year. What are your thoughts, Dean?
I mean, this is how I expected this game to go. I was really interested to see how the Vikings responded after getting punched in the mouth because they've been up in all these games that they've played this year. And they play a really good team like Detroit, and Detroit puts up 21 in the second to take an 11-point lead at halftime.
Hmm.
And what does Minnesota do?
I
They
mean,
give
they respond.
they respond. And that honestly makes my opinion. I'm way higher on Minnesota than I was before this game, even though they were undefeated, because I just wanted to see how they you know, played in a spot of adversity. And I thought, they went up 29-28 off the Montgomery fumble, and Jared Goff just let it drive to win the game.
Yeah, I my takeaway from this one, I mean, again, I think if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, like you shouldn't be. Obviously, it sucks to lose, but this is a game where you're looking at it and you're like, you know what? It happens, right? You don't win. You're not going to win them all,
Yeah.
and if you're going to lose the game, a team like being a division rival sucks, obviously, but at the caliber of the Detroit Lions, you're competitive, right? Um. Yeah, this was honestly, I mean, I'm not gonna say that Sam Darnold played, bad, but I think that he could have played better. There was a few throws I feel like he missed. A few times I think he just kind of wasn't able to make the right read. But I mean, yeah, this game was just one of those games where it was just honestly, it was a good game by both sides. And I think both teams walking out of this one are, you know, pleased with their performance on the field. Obviously, Detroit Lions being more so because they won the game. But Minnesota, you're like, you got to take it on the chin. It's like, all right, go into the film room, see what we did wrong. All right, learn from it, and then just attack next week because you can't just hang your hat on your first loss of the year and be like, oh no, we suck again. So, yeah, I think that both teams are going to be contenders at year's end in the NFC, and should be a tight battle for that top spot in the NFC North. And then we move into Seattle and Atlanta. All right. You like Seattle in this one, and they went out and showed why.
Yeah, I just had a feeling that they would be able to move the ball in this Atlanta defense, and that's exactly what they did. And shockingly, I mean, Bijan still at 100 yards on the ground, but I don't know. I feel like Seattle was in complete control of this game. Like there was never a doubt in my mind
Hmm.
when I thought Atlanta had a chance to come back, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think this was definitely this was probably Kirk Cousins' worst game of the
Yeah.
year. Um, I know Seattle's pass defense is good, right? Their run defense is not, and then I think that's why I kind of expected them to lean a lot more on the run, but yeah, like you said, Seattle again, this was like another case where Seattle kind of jumped up early and it kind of forced them not to just they could just lean on the run game. They kind of forced them to air it out from time to time, which is the strength of the Seattle defense. So, I mean, credit to Seattle. They went out there, they moved the ball, and were consistently putting points on the board. And if you want to win in this league, like consistency is key. So,
Yeah.
credit to Seattle on this one. We move on. We got a pretty big storyline between Cincinnati Bengals and now the now 1-6 Cleveland Browns, who the storyline of this one, Deshaun Watson, his season is done with Achilles injury, and I don't think as much as it hurts to say, I think it's not far-fetched that a potential career ender for Deshaun.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he has all the stuff with the massages and everything like that, but you never want to see someone have a season-ending injury. And like you said, the way he was playing and what people are going to remember Deshaun Watson for is, the last two years, and he
Yeah.
just has been very good. And I
And
feel for
that's
him.
and that's the thing is everybody's gonna remember his time in Cleveland and how his contract was the worst contract, one of the worst contracts of all time in NFL history. And then they're gonna forget how he was a rookie of the year and leading the Houston Texans to the playoffs when he was in Houston. So I mean that sucks a lot for Deshaun Watson. Um, but we got to move on kind of into a brighter spot of this one. Nick Chubb, okay, returning from his injury. All right, 11 carries, 22 yards, so not very efficient, but I mean, they're just trying to get him going again, get his feet wet, and he did end up scoring a touchdown. So there's something to lean on. But I do want to say one more thing before we move on to the Bengals. Is that Deshaun, not Deshaun. We saw DTR come in once Deshaun went down and he didn't play well, so Winston's going to get the start moving forward. So our guy that we've been calling for is going to be playing moving forward. Obviously, not the circumstances we would have liked to see. I would have preferred this obviously to be like a coach's decision, but it's a business. Things happen, and we'll see what Jameis can do. All right. What did you see from the Bengals?
I mean, exactly what I expected, to be honest, in this game. I mean, the first play of the game was a kickoff return.
So you
With
expected a kick return, is what you're
Yeah,
telling me?
other than that, other than that first play of the game, I mean, they end up winning by 7, so it's a little, you know, I'm not that encouraged by it. I thought they would honestly win by more. I thought their offense didn't move the ball like I thought they could. But you win the game. Jamar and T both score a touchdown. I mean, it's a win on your record. So congrats, Cincinnati.
All right, moving on. We got the Miami Dolphins and the Indianapolis Colts. This one was a crapshoot. Like hard to watch is an understatement.
This was a nasty game, and I feel like this is a theme for Miami games whenever two is out, that they're
Mhm.
just nasty to watch. Miami was up 10-0 in this game, and I think the main talking point for me in this game, honestly, is how just not very good Anthony Richardson has looked. He was 10
Yeah.
for 24 passing in this game.
Yeah. I mean, Anthony Richardson this year has looked, I mean, quite frankly, horrendous, at least through the air. And then he had 14 carries and 56 yards. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, even on the ground, I don't think he's, explosive enough to where his lack of arm talent is gonna make up for it on his with his legs. So I don't know if I'm not I know I'm not sold on Anthony Richardson being the quarterback of the future for the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know how long they'll be able to ride this out. Obviously they got him for right now, but I don't know if you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, if you're looking at Anthony Richardson saying that's going to be my guy after his rookie contract is up. The story for me going into this one, I mean, the Miami Dolphins clearly can't get it done without Tua. I mean, they just have zero play at the quarterback position. And the craziest thing for me in this one was the fact that both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle had a combined 0 targets in the first half. They finished the game with 1 catch each and 1 target each. How does that happen?
I don't know how that happens, but it can't happen ever again. I'll tell you that right now.
I mean, these are your playmakers. These are the guys that are going to put points on the board for you, and you're just not even looking at them. I
Yeah.
mean,
Uh,
it's insane. I don't know if how much of this do you think goes on the coaching staff?
I mean, definitely a little bit of it. I don't know. Obviously, who to blame. The quarterback plays bad, but you still got Jonnu Smith getting 96 yards, and even Alec Ingold had more receiving yards than Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill combined.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. I mean, I don't know. I did see that. I think Tua's come expected to come back this week. So we'll see if that rights the ship and this Miami team can get back on track. But something needs to happen. Hopefully for Miami, Tua coming back is what's gonna turn them around. All right, and we move on. Hottest take of the year. The Carolina Panthers to go out on the road and upset the Washington Commanders by yours truly, Dean. And boy, what do you have to say about this one?
Hey man, that's the great thing about sports because you gotta, respect what you said. And I said that. And honestly, if there was a chance for the Panthers to win this game, it would have been with what happened with Jaden Daniels going out. But then you got Marcus Mariota coming in looking like he's at Oregon again. 200, 205 yards and 2 touchdowns. But there was actually something. I was watching this game obviously early because, I was rooting for the Panthers. And the first drive, Andy Dalton throws an interception, then they punt, and then he throws another interception still in the first half. And it just looked like Deontay Johnson like gave up on his route.
hmm
I guess I didn't realize how big of a dumpster fire this Panthers team was. Because Washington was up 20-0 at one point in this game, and they had 6 passing yards, but 180 total yards.
Yeah, I mean, if going into my take on this one, this was a game that I said, this was a free win. Like I said that Washington could go out there and beat them by 20, and they ended up beating them by more than 30. So, and like you said, this was without Jaden Daniels. So
Yeah.
imagine if Jaden Daniels was in this game, how much uglier it could have gotten. I love seeing Mariota going out there and balling. Um, Note though on the Jaden Daniels injury, I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. He was out on the field. He didn't go to the locker room or anything. He was out there. Looked pretty. he looked in good spirits, so I don't think he's freaking out. I haven't seen anything that's barring, he's gonna miss a lot of time. Just got a little banged up, I think, and he'll be fine moving forward. Big win for the Washington Commanders and Carolina, just more of the same. All right, moving in to LA. All right, we got the Vegas Raiders going into LA. LA gets the job done with a 5-point victory, 20-15. What did you see in this one?
I did only watch the highlights of this game. I didn't see it live because, to be honest with you,
I can't hear you. Something.
well,
I don't know what happened. Your mic cut out. I'll go ahead. I'll start feeding into this one. So big thing that I saw in this one, right? Kyron Williams. I mean, I think he had he's on like a crazy streak of games where he has a rushing touchdown. I don't know exactly what it's at. I want to say it's almost at I think it's like 11 games or something like that where it's straight where he's had a rushing touchdown. I could be way off, but bottom line, that's something that I saw in this one. Matt Stafford once again, the Rams offense just through the air, it's looked abysmal when they don't have Nakua or Cup. But a thing to note, Cooper Cup is expected to come back. There's also a lot of intrigue in Cooper Cup from other teams around the league. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then let's see, Vegas. I mean, Vegas's quarterback situation is a glaring issue. Again, there's teams that have their guy and there's teams that don't. Vegas right now is 100% one of those teams that don't.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The Aiden O'Connell experience, then Minshew came in and threw three picks. The Raiders, man, they're just not very good. I'm not gonna lie to you, they're just not. And the Rams are injury riddled and still won this game.
Mhm.
If you're a Raiders fan, just I don't want to say don't have any optimism, but have very little.
If there was any optimism for the Raiders in this one, I mean, I will say Brock Bowers looks like he's going to be very good moving forward and a very, very like solid option at the tight end spot for the Raiders for years to come. So I am very excited to see what he can do with a quarterback that is solidified. So we'll see. The quarterback position is probably going to be something the Raiders address in the offseason. Moving on. All right, Super Bowl rematch. Still undefeated, the only undefeated team in the league, going for three Super Bowls in a row. The 6-0 Kansas City Chiefs now knock off the Niners 28-18.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game where the Niners, they're in trouble, man. And not because all right, let me rephrase that. They're not in trouble, but for the Niners standards, they're in trouble because of Ayuk's out for the year.
Yeah.
And in this game, they didn't have Debo, Ayuk, or Juwan Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Purdy threw three picks, but I mean, what do you want the guy to do? It's George Kittle and a bunch of dudes like Ricky Purcell
Yeah.
was in there. Happy
His
he
his first game his first game after getting shot in the chest. Like what do you expect from the guy?
Yeah, you can't expect much. But on the other side, Patrick Mahomes isn't putting up these glaring stats like he has in the past.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, this is a team right now where the Kansas City Chiefs, right? It's not one guy. It's just a team mentality that everybody just has the expectation. They're back-to-back Super Bowl champs. They're still the team to beat no matter what is going on. So they have that mentality and they just run with it. So this Kansas City Chiefs team, I'm scared for what this Kansas City Chiefs team is going to be able to do because I legitimately believe in this team to go out there and three-peat. And we talked about it earlier. Big trade is they go out there and they get D-Hop, all right? This is a team that struggled at the receiver position due to injury. And, the front office is like, you know what? We're in our window still. We're 6-0, right? Let's get our franchise guy some help. Let's get him another elite weapon in DeAndre Hopkins. All right. As far as how elite he is, I mean, is to be seen because since he's been in Tennessee, we haven't seen a whole lot, but I've seen I've seen glimpses and flashes of what DeAndre Hopkins used to be that I think he still can be. And in a Kansas City offense with Andy Reid calling plays and Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that, great version of DeAndre Hopkins that we've come to know and potentially the best version of DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously out of his prime now, but we've seen what this Chiefs team can do with a wide receiver one, and it's just crazy to me how this team continuously does this every year. They get Kadarius Toney last year. He scores a touchdown in the Super Bowl. They get Mecole Hardman. He scores a touchdown,
Mhm.
game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. And now they probably said, "Hey, D-Hop, you can come score a touchdown in the Super Bowl,
Yeah,
and you're our fifth round pick will turn into a fourth after we win the Super Bowl." Like it's
yeah.
just
I mean, look, if I mean you're not wrong. So, is it too early to get a D Hop anytime touchdown in the Super Bowl bet? All right. But yeah, so that's what we got going on in Kansas City, and look out. I don't think this is a team that looks to slow down anytime soon. And then our Sunday night matchup, Pittsburgh Steelers against the New York Jets. Big win for the Steelers. Russell Wilson at the helm, first game as a starter. Let me hear it.
I mean, you and I both had our questions, and maybe it was me being a, Justin Fields just watching, loving him play, or loving to watch him play. But I was definitely hating on Russ a little bit, especially when he started out 2 for 9. We were in the airport at the time, and I was
Mhm.
watching the game like, what is this guy doing? But he's a vet, and the more I think about it in this offense, if Russell Wilson can just he doesn't have to be this great improviser like he was in Seattle.
Yeah.
Really, all he has to have is a good deep ball, to be honest
Mhm.
with you. Because if he has a good deep ball to let Pickens make plays, the run game is good enough. The Steelers are going to run the ball. And
Yep.
their defense is we all know they're good enough. The Jets had 0 points in the second half in this game after having a pretty good first half.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, looking at it, like you said, we both kind of had our doubts. I mean, we both like Justin Fields. We like, seeing what he was doing um in Pittsburgh, but like you said, I think the biggest thing that Russell Wilson brings that Justin Fields just wasn't able to do consistently is the deep ball and these explosive plays that from time and time, like week in, week out, I've been saying, as long as we get just a couple of explosive plays from the Steelers offense, like they're gonna be a very, very tough team to beat. And with Russell Wilson, they just have a lot more opportunity for these explosive plays. So um yeah, we were doubting, but after watching what they did against New York, I mean, I might be as high on the Steelers as ever.
But clearly, Mike Tomlin knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Yeah, shocker. The guy that hasn't had a losing season in the NFL knows what he's doing. All right. And then, yeah, on the other side of the ball, I mean, the New York Jets just never again. Again, they couldn't get it out. I mean, this is Devontae Adams' first game with a familiar quarterback, granted, but new offense, still trying to, get acclimated, but I don't know. I think the New York Jets, they put all their eggs on in the basket of Aaron Rodgers, and quite frankly, I think it was a mistake. I'm just gonna go out and say it. I think Aaron Rodgers, his window is come and gone, and I don't know how much longer I can see Aaron Rodgers even playing in the NFL.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not going to count him out just yet, though, because that he's still a bad man, Aaron Rodgers, and I believe in him. Even though he hasn't shown it so far, I believe in him.
All right. Wrapping up this week. Okay, we're moving on to Monday night. We had two games in this Monday night slate. We're gonna start with the LA Chargers and the Arizona Cardinals. Okay. Really low scoring game in this one. 15-17. What did you see out of this one?
What I saw out of this one was just another one of those games where the Chargers should win and they don't. And I feel like if you're a Chargers fan, that's a common theme. I mean, Justin Herbert, first drive of the game, throws a 50-yard pass. Rager fumbles it at the 1 yard line. He had 350 yards passing. They didn't have a touchdown. They had
Yeah.
5 field goals. Yeah, I don't know. The Chargers should have won this one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, eventually this is something, it's just again, these common themes that we always talk about is eventually you can't just settle for three. You got to put the ball in the end zone. And because if you're not putting the ball in the end zone, you're not winning games. Point blank. So you would have liked to see LA finish some of these drives, but credit to Arizona's defense for, the definition of bending but not breaking. So big win, honestly, for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, in a game where you weren't very efficient through the air, James Conner had 100 yards, which is solid. And Kyler Murray did more with his legs, really, than he did through the air. So go to win for Arizona when, again, like you said, a game where you shouldn't have won. You kind of escape with a win in a kind of gritty battle between them and the LA Chargers. And lastly, not least, I've been kind of not very enthusiastic, to say the least, and this is why. The Baltimore Ravens and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm just gonna get right into it. I don't know. I mean, it's sad, honestly. I think Chris Godwin, his devastating injury to Chris Godwin. I don't know. I mean, his year is probably over. If I were to say right now, his year is over. I haven't seen anything saying that it's for certain. Um, but a dislocated ankle did not look good. And then Mike Evans also, he went into this one with a hamstring injury. He caught a touchdown on the first he caught a touchdown early in this one, and then Baker goes to him again. I think this was in the second quarter, and he goes down real hard and immediately is grabbing at the hammy. And I saw that he is expected to be out until at least week 11.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, that is the toughest news the Bucks could have heard because let's be honest, if you look at the stats, this wide receiver duo has been the best in the league,
mhm.
and it's not even close. And it sucks. Injuries suck, man. I wish injuries weren't a thing in football, especially when they happen that late in the game, like Chris Godwin's
Yeah.
just stinks. And
This
I'm
is a
not gonna.
game that was essentially over, being a 10-point game, and I know they were talking about it on the broadcast multiple times, talking about at some point you just got to escape, and move on to the next week. But this was a game that I think Todd Bowles thought they could still win, but ultimately it came down to that. But if you look at Baltimore, all right, Derrick Henry just he killed it. He killed it on the ground. 15 carries for 170 yards. He averaged 11 yards a carry. And
It's like
then on the receiving end, Rashad Bateman is quietly becoming more and more of a factor in this Ravens receiving core.
Yeah, Rashad Bateman. Yeah, you're not wrong. He is. Zay Flowers, I know he was a little banged up early, so maybe that's another reason. But Mark Andrews even showed up this week. He had 2 touchdowns. And I'm just going to say right now, I know it's kind of easy to say after a game like he had, but Lamar Jackson's the MVP of the NFL.
Oh, I think right now he's 100% the favorite to win MVP. But that wraps up our week 7 matchups. We'll see kind of how these teams recover and bounce back. Stay tuned for our episode. Again, we're getting it to you late, but we're looking to go back to back here. Um, you got anything else?
I got nothing, man. Looking forward to this week of football.
All right. Appreciate y'all stopping by. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, share with a friend, and we'll see y'all in the next one.